Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services. Madam Secretary, please proceed to call the roll.
Senator Lang. Here. Senator Nguyen. Here. Senator Stone. Here. Senator Titus. Here. Chair Donate.
And I'm here. Thank you so much. Everyone is present. Please indicate that all committee members are present. So, good afternoon, everyone. Today we have very exciting presentations and a bill hearing. We have the honor of welcoming our University of Medical School presentations by the deans and, of course, to have a hearing on Senate Bill 146. So before we begin, I want to give a few housekeeping items. First, the agenda items may be taken in a different order than listed. We ask that any individuals that have public comments to please limit their comments to 2 minutes each. And you could also submit public comments in writing, either in addition to testifying or in lieu of thereof. If you wish to testify, you can always sign in at the table at the front of the room. And just know that in doing so, that I will cut you off after 2 minutes. And so if that does happen, you can always feel free to send your remarks to the committee staff. As a reminder, it is unlawful for a person to misrepresent facts when testifying, and a person who knowingly does so is guilty of a misdemeanor. And anyone who wishes to receive copies of the committee's exhibits, you can go on the website on Nellis or contact our committee staff. So let's go ahead and begin with the agenda items today. So the first order of business, of course, is a presentation from both the UNLV and the UNLR School of Medicine. So I will go ahead and invite both deans to present. And I just want to state that this is, my understanding, historic to have both of them presenting, and it's very exciting. And and Dean Connett, from my understanding, you both know each other or have met each other before, even in your current roles.
1986, and anyway, and we haven't seen each other in person since. But, yeah.
That's amazing. So please proceed when you both are ready.
Thank you, Senator Donate and senators. My name is Paul Hauptman. I am the dean at the University of Nevada Reno School of Medicine, which I will refer to as UNR Med for brevity today. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present before the Health and Human Services Committee. I'm also delighted to be here today with my colleague, Dr. Mark Kahn. We come before you today to discuss our common interests in educating and training the next generation of physicians and physician assistants for Nevada. We share the same goals: to improve healthcare quality and access, and to move forward toward achieving a healthy Nevada. To begin with, let me make mention of the fact that in May, UNR Med will be celebrating its 50th reunion of its first class, the class of 1973. These accomplished graduates will be opening up a time capsule that they placed in one of our science buildings. The class of 2023 will be there to celebrate alongside the alumni and will place objects in their own time capsule to be opened 50 years hence. We are proud of this history, we're proud of the continuity, and we're proud of our educational record. At UNR Med, we've averaged 70 matriculated medical students with a current enrollment of 277 and 24 PA students per year with a current enrollment of 46. In its first 50 years, and as Nevada's first public medical school, we have educated more than 3,600 students, residents, and fellows. 90% of our students have graduated from a Nevada high school, a 4-year NG institution, or have strong ties to the state. The remaining students come from the surrounding western states. In the class of 2026, 58 are first in their families to be in medicine, 26% live in or were raised in a rural area, 51% are female, 2 are veterans, and 63% graduated from NG institutions. While a significant portion of the PA students remain in the state, many in rural and underserved areas, only 13%, or 18 of our current 132 medical resident and fellows are graduates of UNR Med. We have programs in family medicine, sports medicine, internal medicine, geriatrics, hospice and palliative care, psychiatry, and child and adolescent psychiatry. Senators, Dr. Kahn and I have been tasked with producing more doctors, but with budget cuts and lack of meaningful increases in federal support since 1996, we believe that we're limited in our ability to sustain GME, that is graduate medical education. The data are clear. Increasing medical school class size alone will only work if you increase opportunities for those students to train as residents and fellows in graduate medical education program. In fact, data from UNR Med's Office of Statewide Initiatives demonstrate that you can almost double the likelihood of retention of physicians through GME programming. And I thought I'd just share a few statistics with you. Nevada ranks 45th of 50 in the number of physicians we have per 100,000 populations, 48th in terms of the number of primary care physicians per 100,000 populations, and 49th in terms of the number of general surgeons per 100,000 population. The good news is that physicians completing GME here in Nevada, 55% of them will stay in the state. That ranks us 6th. If a physician has attended a public medical school here in the state and completed a GME program, the likelihood of them staying and practicing in Nevada is 77%, and we rank 8th in the country in that. We would also like to think that our residencies and fellowships in Reno and Las Vegas can serve as destination programs. Unfortunately, budget constraints make it extremely difficult to grow GME. We need support for resident and faculty salaries, as well as administrative support, which is a key element in training residents. Without question, when it comes to the doctor shortage and our mission, if you build GME programs in Nevada, physicians will practice in Nevada. Depending on the type of residency or fellowship program and teaching hospital readiness, startup costs for a new GME program in Nevada range from $1 to $2 million. Estimated annual costs for sustaining a GME program range from $2 to $3 million, depending on the type of program and the number of residents being trained. To ensure viability, financial support of GME requires not only startup funds, but a stepwise increase in funding as a program adds residents during the 3 to 5 year training period. And second, the ability to prove financial sustainability to the accreditation body for graduate medical education, which is known as ACGME. We would also like to emphasize that loan repayment programs are critical in order to retain and attract physicians to Nevada. So with those comments in mind, I'd like to thank the committee for this opportunity, and I'm happy to pass the proverbial baton to my colleague, Dr. Khan.
Thank you, Dr. Hauptman. For the record, Mark, M-A-R-C, J. Kahn, K-A-H-N. I'm the Dean of the Kirk-Kerkorian School of Medicine and Vice President for Health Affairs at UNLV. My colleague, Dr. Hauptman, adequately described the state we are in regarding access to care and regarding the number of providers that we have in the state of Nevada. As a matter of course, at UNLV, at the Kirk-Kerkorian School of Medicine, we're much younger. We're about to graduate our 3rd class. 2 of my students are accompanying me today. We currently have 60 students a class with plans funding, assuming we get adequate funding, to increase our class size to 90 a class by 2030. As my esteemed colleague mentioned, increasing the number of medical students, though, will not increase the number of physicians that we have in our state, and we desperately need to increase the number of graduate medical education positions. Currently, GME is funded by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid predominantly, and those positions were capped by a bill that that was passed in 1996 and went into effect in 1997. We have essentially been capped at a little over 400 spots, compared to a state like New York that has almost 20,000. So although there's a difference in population, the ratio is still much smaller for our state, and I would argue that our state is very different than it was in 1996, 1997. So expansion of GME is essential, and it's not likely that we're going to get much federal support to do that. So we need to look for other sources to increase the number of physicians and the distribution of physicians in our state. Absolutely critical. The economics of this are also much more than healthcare, because when new businesses come into a state, the 2 things that they look for are education and healthcare. Providing adequate GME, these people provide healthcare, and often to the most vulnerable populations that we see in our state. So not only are we expanding the number of physicians, but we're also providing economic stability and diversification for our economy. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, Dr. Hauptman and I stand united in the need to increase GME for our state so that we can best care for our population. I thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you so much. Did you want the students to speak, or are we?
I'd happily have them speak.
And let me just state, too, that UNR Med has 2 students in the second year. Dr. Khan's students are fourth-year students, right on the cusp of match day, when they will find out where they, in fact, will be doing their internships.
I would like to invite the students if they want to talk about their general experiences. I know they got a little bit anxious just when I mentioned it. But if you want to talk about just your general experiences, and I think that would be helpful for the committee members since we are going to go into questions. So just remember to state your name for the record.
My name is Callie Griffin. I'm a second-year medical student at the University of Nevada, Reno. Full disclosure, I have not prepared anything to say. However, I am very, very grateful to be a medical student here at UNR Med, and I don't take that lightly. And I would love to stay in Nevada. I am actually not from Nevada, which I know is kind of an unpopular opinion. However, I think that it speaks to how you're also drawing people from California and providing an opportunity to get other students from other states to stay here. And, you know, I would love to come back. However, I'll probably be leaving for residency. But yeah, I just think it's really powerful what you guys can do here for the future healthcare of Nevada. So thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Vishwas Ravi Kumar. I'm a fourth year at the Kerkorian School of Medicine down at UNLV. I was originally born in India, but grew up in Carson City, spent the first 18 years of my life there, went to high school in Reno, now back in Las Vegas for medical school. So, you know, Nevada holds a very special place to me. My parents still live here. It really is like what I consider home. I think it's wonderful that we have these 2 medical schools here. My brother's a graduate from UNR too, so I do appreciate them as well. You know, I think that there's been a lot of great progress, I just want to reemphasize and echo the dean's call for expansion of our GME. As much as our undergraduate medical education is expanding, it would be awesome to have more resources available at the GME level. For example, I'm interested in pursuing a career in hematology oncology, and we just don't have that fellowship in the state yet. You know, it would be great to have something like that. I think there's plans in the pipeline to have that in the future. But the more of that we can have, I think the more and more physicians we'll be able to keep here in our state. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Mackenzie Montero, spelled Montero. So I'm a second-year medical student at the University of Nevada, Reno School of Medicine. And so I grew up in Dayton, which is very close to here. I then attended UNR on the BSMD program, which is a pipeline program leading directly into the med school here. And I got a master's in business administration prior to attending medical school. To kind of echo what everyone has said here, I think that Nevada holds a very special place in my heart, and I think that to continue my education and get the, you know, attend the residencies that I am hoping to attend, I would have to leave the state, which would be very, you know, it's just due to the current residencies that we have available, it's something that is kind of almost like forcing our hand. And I think that just being able to develop those residencies, and also it would contribute to our education during our third year. So during our third year clinical rotations, when we're rotating through the hospitals, having an established home program for some of these residencies would really contribute to our education and just also keep retention for physicians moving forward. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Daphne Ferrer, last name spelled Ferrer. I'm a fourth-year medical student at the Kerkorian School of Medicine. I was born in Hawaii, but I was raised in Las Vegas, went to the 9th Island. I did undergrad at UNLV, and then I continued into medical school at UNLV. Like everyone speaking here, Nevada has a very close space in my heart. And as a fourth-year med student, the idea of expanding GME is very, very important. I have many classmates who want to stay home and take care of the community that they grew up in, but unfortunately they don't have the position there for them. So I also want to support expanding GME so that many of us can return back home and take care of our families.
Thank you so much. I think that was important because we need to hear from you as well, you know, as why this is important to invest in this space. So, committee members, I want to invite our deans back to answer any questions. So I'll turn it over to you all. You can ask about GME. You can ask about some of the initiatives that they're doing, enrollment and so forth. And so I want to open that opportunity for you all. But before we get to that, I'll start us off just to get into the flow of some of the questions. So, we talk about graduate medical education and what it would take our state to fully build the capacity. And so I think it's important for us to know, what are the priority areas? What are the residencies that we should be looking at immediately to solve the gaps?
Yeah, so I think, we could talk about this.
Identify yourself for the record.
Thank you. For the record, Mark Kahn, K-A-H-N, Dean, UNLV School of Medicine, and Vice President for Health Affairs. We could talk about this for a while, but we need to address the needs of an aging population. So we don't have training programs in ophthalmology. We don't have training programs in urology. We're about to start a training program in hem-onc, but only have preliminary funding for that. Those are certainly areas that directly address needs of an aging population. We're also in the Sun Belt, and there's no training programs in dermatology. So, Mr. Chair, we not only need in-house growth. So right now, the state trains 10 pediatricians a year. Fortunately, my colleagues at UNR, under Dr. Hauptman's leadership, are about to start a second pediatrics residency. But we need that in-house growth in addition to the growth of new programs to address the need of an aging population.
And for the record, Paul Hauptman, Dean at the UNR School of Medicine and also Chief Academic Officer at Renowned Health. I left that out the first time I introduced myself. I think it's a somewhat difficult question to answer because the calculus depends also on our hospital partners and the type of physicians and faculty that are present. So it's one of the reasons why the runway tends to be a bit long, is to establish who the faculty will be. If I were to be pressed now, I would say that at UNR Med and Renowned Health, we would be very interested in standing up an OBGYN residency, a fellowship in addiction medicine, a fellowship in pulmonary and critical care, and a residency in general surgery.
Thank you so much. And then as a follow-up to that, I think it's important, just in general conversations, we've given lump sums here and there, and it hasn't been very consistent. And I think we have to come to the reality that for GME, we need to create some level of sustainable funding. Do you have an estimate, or how much do you think we would need within the near term to start building that capacity to some of the programs that you're looking for? I think we talked about it privately, but can you elaborate more on that?
For the record, Mark Kahn, Dean at UNLV, how much money do you have, Senator? Not to be flip. I think that in the short term, Dr. Hauptman and I talked, and $50 million is a big number, but it's going to take that for us to catch up with states of our size.
Paul Hauptman, UNR Med Dean. Obviously, we appreciate any and all support and appreciated the governor's inclusion of $8.6 million in his proposed budget. But when you consider the cost of these programs and the need to prove sustainability, we would advocate at the very least a doubling, if not a tripling in the near term, and then devising a plan for more sustained funding so that we don't have to come back, not that we won't come back, but that we don't have to come back every 2 years. We were really concerned that from the standpoint of accreditation, if we can't show that we have a mature plan that will cover the program for a good 5 to 10 years, then we may be putting accreditation at risk.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Any questions from the committee members? Senator Stone.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. You mentioned that a lot of these GME slots are funded by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So is there a matching program if the state were to come up with money? Can we leverage our money to provide for more GME slots?
Thank you for the question, Senator. Paul Hauptman, UNR Med Dean. From my understanding, those matches are not available unless it's a brand-new program in a new hospital that has not had CMS funding for graduate medical education over a period of at least a decade or more. And therein lies part of the problem. I am aware that there are efforts at the federal level to increase funding. There was an attempt to increase it as an add-on or a rider to a bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, 15,000 new slots. It did not get included in the final passage of the bill. As part of one of the COVID relief packages, 1,000 new slots were funded for CMS, 200 a year for 5 years. Dr. Khan's program and our program each got one of those slots, but that's 200 slots across the entire United States. The emphasis on that funding was for rural, remote, underserved areas, which is great for us, and that's probably why we were able to get some of that funding, but it's woefully inadequate.
So if I heard you correctly, we have 400 slots in the entire state of Nevada. In comparison, I think you mentioned New York, 20,000 slots. So I assume that's a federal formula. Can you tell us a little bit about that formula and how we can, is it based on population? How do we boost that number of slots?
Thank you, Senator. Mark Kahn, Dean, UNLV School of Medicine. So those slots are historic. Prior to 1996, hospitals were able to apply for increased number of residency spots, basically ad lib, as part of an Omnibus Balanced Budget Act in 1996. Those spots and positions were frozen. So we're basically locked into where we were in 1996 without any adaptation for population, need, et cetera.
So we're operating on data that's 26 years old, and considering the incredible growth that we've seen in the state of Nevada, it's certainly no puzzle as to why we're so far behind. Do you have any ideas for us on how we bend the arms of the federal officials, our delegation, in order to effectuate more slots? Because you're basically saying it's not going to do us any good to increase slots in our medical schools if we don't have the GME slots to put those graduates into. Right. And I've been concerned since I've lived here, because when you're trying to attract industries to come here, they ask a couple of questions. They want to know, how's your schools and what's the quality of your health care? And so I see a lot of holes, and I want to stop this medical exportation to other states, and I want to keep that expertise here. And you mentioned a lot of incredible specialties that we need to work on. I would love to learn more from you outside of this committee about how we as a state can do more to advocate to get more GME medical slots, because it's important for the health and safety of our residents here.
Senator Mark Kahn, for the record, I think I speak for my colleague. We'd be happy to have such a meeting. I think that to date, there hasn't been a lot of federal support to expand. My colleague talked about an extra 1,000 spots across the country over 5 years. That's really not very many. I think that there was just an increase of another 100 more, by the way, for the whole country over however many years. I think that, with changes in population, there needs to be some modification of the formula. That's going to take legislation, and it's going to take lobbying, but we'd be happy to have the conversation.
And Senator, just very briefly for Paul Hauptman, UNR Med Dean, for the record, it's my understanding the Nevada delegation has been very supportive of increasing GME slots in the state and across the country. The vast majority of programs that are involved in graduate medical education are over the cap, which means that other funding mechanisms are sought to cover the additional costs of being over the amount that the federal government will cover. But it's increasingly difficult to obtain those funds. At UNR Med, we've reached out to donors, for example, in an attempt to help fund our new pediatric program.
And Senator, if I may, Mark Kahn, for the record, Dean at UNLV School of Medicine. In around 1995, 1996, the Association of American Medical Colleges and others advocated for medical schools, advocated for an increase in the number of physicians that we graduated by 30%. And that was through new programs like our school, and it was also through expansion of existing programs. We met that mark and actually now graduate more than 30% more doctors than we did in 1996. The problem was there was never a corresponding increase in GME. So we, are reaching a point where the number of spots is getting closer and closer to the number of graduates, and that in and of itself is concerning.
Well, and just a final note, if I may, Mr. Chair. I think the students that you had here today, you can tell they're very bright. They're Nevada-born, right? We would love for them to stay in Nevada, and it's disturbing to hear that the specialties that we need, the specialties that they're seeking to acquire, are not available in the state. And my only hope is that to congratulate you for your successes, and I hope that you come back to Nevada when you're finished. We need you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Senator Stone. Senator Nguyen.
Thank you. I think you answered several of my questions already with Senator Stone's question and your comments. I do have a couple of questions. It seems like this is probably a problem that we face with the lack of GMEs across the United States, and it seems to be more so in the West as you move to newer institutions. Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
Mark Hahn, for the record, Senator, that is correct, yes.
And what is the basis of that? Is it just because, like, on the East Coast, you have more established, like, hospitals and medical schools that when they established their GME programs, they had hundreds of openings? I mean, can someone explain that to me a little bit further?
For the record, Mark Hahn, I'll let my colleague speak as well, but in 1996, in the state of Nevada, we had one medical school. We had, at that time, a limited number of residency positions because we had one medical school and a population very different than what we have now. The East Coast, has a population base, has many more hospitals. Many of those hospitals are much older. There's a higher number of medical schools, and that's why they have the predominance of residency positions. Again, unfortunately, there's not been a change in 26 years.
Senator Paul Hauptman from UNR Med, I think you raise a very interesting point. There are obviously very well-established programs on the West Coast, Stanford, UCSF, and USC and related institutions. But you raise an interesting point of whether or not there's a relative GME desert in the middle of the country or as you go into the far west. And it's something that we could definitely look at. Obviously, you'd have to control it for the population. But as Dr. Khan is pointing out, there have been a lot of shifts in population since 1996.
And then may follow up. You had mentioned, obviously, we have a deficiency in certain types of specialties, but do we have a deficiency in the programs that we have existing as well?
Mark Hahn, for the record, Dean at UNLV. Yes, there's a lack of specialties that we currently have. As an example, I talked about pediatrics, where we have 10 graduates a year. We're soon to have more when University of Nevada, Reno's program comes on board. But when you look at our population size, having even 20 pediatricians a year is a very small number. So we need both in-house growth, we need to grow the programs and the specialties we have, and we also need to expand into specialties that we don't offer.
And I know that there's obviously partnerships with the hospitals in determining what these specialties are, because you need to have them also agree to be able to create these programs, start these programs, and, run them. How are those conversations going with the hospitals about either expanding those programs or introducing other programs if we were to be given those GME positions?
Thank you, Senator Paul Hauptman from UNR Med. In my role as Chief Academic Officer at Renowned Health, I can tell you that there is a lot of interest in expanding our residency and fellowship programs. Obviously, this is a very challenging time for hospitals, especially hospitals that can be seen as providing care to the indigent. And so from a financial standpoint, it's not exactly the best time for a hospital to step up to the plate. But I'm confident that our respective hospital partners would be more willing to do so if there were more partners in funding such a program. if everyone puts some skin in the game, it just makes for a more attractive proposal.
And if I could add to what my colleague said, Mark Kahn for the record, our principal hospital partner is UMC in Las Vegas, and they are currently 50 residents over cap. So that means the hospital pays for 50 residents that they don't get reimbursed for. As Dr. Hauptman said, UMC is a safety net hospital. It's a public hospital, and it has its mission to not turn patients away. Its margins are small financially. Funding GME that's not otherwise funded is probably not sustainable, and to grow new programs becomes challenging. So although they're willing, there are real financial realities that make such growth difficult.
Just one last comment, Paul Hauptman for the record, and that is that residency programs really do serve as pipelines for hospitals, and they recognize that, and that's one of the reasons why they are willing to go over the cap.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, I'll continue the questions. So I want to pivot away from GME since we've spent the majority of this presentation talking about that. Are there any other challenges that you believe the committee members should know? For instance, are you having trouble recruiting faculty? Are there nuances that we should be focusing on as university institutions, and anything that we can help support?
Yes, Mark Kahn for the record, Dean at UNLV School of Medicine. So one area that's challenging is we're one of a minority of states that allow our third-party payers, the insurers, to offer exclusivity. So what that means is I could hire 5 cardiologists to help train my medical students, residents, and fellows, but I can't get them on any insurance panels because they're essentially closed out of participation. So I can't pay them, so I really can't hire them. Again, most states have laws that prohibit that type of exclusivity. We'd really, at least for the medical schools, to allow support, and I know that Senator Lang has such a bill that would allow the medical schools to hire faculty that could not be excluded from such insurance providers. That will greatly allow us to increase the number of physicians that we have to train the next generation of doctors for the state of Nevada.
Thank you. For the record, Paul Hauptman, UNR Med Dean. The basic science faculty at UNR Med have garnered over $25 million in funding on an annual basis from the National Institutes of Health and the Department of Defense. And there are 5 startups that have originated out of UNR Med labs. And that reflects part of our focus on innovation. However, we are in need of significant deferred maintenance funding to address heating, cooling, electrical, and air quality issues, and new funding to allow us to expand, because we're seeking to attract highly productive research faculty who can be at the vanguard of new discoveries and in innovation. We think that biomedical innovation is a big opportunity here for Nevada. We're happy to provide details on those needs as time allows or offline.
Thank you so much. You answered my next question, which was, are there any infrastructure requests or anything missing? But Dean Kahn, you have a nice building, so I mean.
Thank you. We
that
do
lets
need
it-
operating dollars to keep it running, but thank you.
Yeah, so I think as follow-up, I think we would be engaged in following, especially for the UNR School of Medicine as well. And I think there's always room to build capacity. I think that's for both institutions, and I think we can continue to encourage that. I don't have any other further questions, and I don't think anyone else. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll go ahead and end this agenda item, and we'll move on to the bill hearing on Senate Bill 146. So I'll go ahead and open the hearing. This bill revises provisions relating to healthcare, and we have with us Senator Lang to present on this bill. So Senator Lang, when you're ready, please proceed.
Felt like I was sitting on the floor for a minute.
I usually do.
Good afternoon, Chair Donate, members of the Committee on HHS. I'm Roberta Lang. I represent Senate District 7 in Las Vegas and Clark County. I am pleased to come before you this afternoon to present Senate Bill 146, which revises provisions governing regulations of hospital prohibits a healthcare carrier from denying certain healthcare providers from entering contracts under certain circumstances along with other provisions. If I could give you just a little bit of background, Nevada faces a persistent shortage of nearly every type of healthcare professional, including doctors, mental health professionals, and nurses. The number of healthcare providers per 1,000 population remains well under the national average, according to Health Workforce of Nevada in Nevada Chartbook of 2021. The state would need an additional 307 medicine physicians, 807 nurse practitioners, 4,209 nurses to equal the national per capita rates for each occupation. There are many factors that influence not only whether healthcare providers practice in Nevada, but whether they choose to stay. These include the availability and capacity of health education training programs, licensing and regulatory practices, recruitment, retention, and in this case, health carrier networks. Nevada is desperate for quality healthcare providers. It is important that we remove barriers that prevent practitioners from coming to practice in our state, and most importantly, staying in our state. Additionally, it is imperative that we provide existing healthcare workers in our state, such as certified nurse midwives, with more flexibility to perform quality services. I'm going to share with you a brief story that Dr. Kahn told me when I first met with him about this bill, and it's about a cardiologist that they were trying to hire at the UNLV School of Medicine. Top-notch doctor, wanted him to teach at the medical school. He wanted to teach at the medical school. But when he tried to get paneled by the healthcare companies, they told him the panels were full and that he couldn't, and we lost a quality person to teach at our medical school. This is horrific. So I believe that we need to remove these barriers, increase the pipeline of doctors, nurses, and teachers, and other important healthcare providers to come to practice in Nevada and stay. As increasing the flexibility for our certified nurse midwives, this bill extends the existing regulation that allows for a physician of medicine or osteopathic medicine to perform a physical examination on a patient to also include a certified nurse midwives. It authorizes them to perform a physical examination and obtain a medical history before or after the patient is admitted to the hospital for childbirth, slightly but efficiently expanding their scope of practice. I'm now going to turn it over to Dean Kahn from the Kirk Kerkorian School of Medicine at UNLV, also Vice President for Health Affairs. He's going to provide you a little background information and go over some bill details. And then Dean Hoffman and Dean Kahn, and down in Las Vegas we have Nurse Jennifer Vanderlyn, Dean, is she Dean? No. A professor in the midwife, in case you have any questions about the midwife section about the bill. So Dean Kahn.
Thank you, Madam Senator. For the record, Mark Kahn, Dean, UNLV School of Medicine, and Vice President for Health Affairs. So we really have critical access issues in our state, and we need to remove as many barriers to access that we can. I'll let my colleague discuss the nurse midwifery program, but that is really important so that we can provide necessary perinatal and postnatal care for women in our state. Regarding the bill to allow medical school faculty to be part of panels, that's really, again, critical not only for our ability to train the next generation of physicians, but also for our ability to care for our patients. The medical schools, the two public medical schools, serve a critical function to really serve the most vulnerable patients in our population. And if we are limited in our ability to recruit high-quality providers, it really limits our ability to provide care to those populations as well. Neither Dean Hauptman nor I nor our respective hospital institutions, hospital partners, turn a single patient away. We're here to take care of everybody, and that becomes difficult when we can't recruit and hire the necessary cadre of specialists and subspecialists. Thank you.
Paul Hauptman, Dean at UNR Med and Chief Academic Officer at Renown Health. And in fact, that's relevant in that the predominant hiring right now of physicians will be by Renown. That said, we are fully supportive of this bill, and the position that Dr. Khan took, I think, is the right one, and it's the right one for the state. Thank you.
Jennifer, would you like to talk about the midwife section of the bill?
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Vanderlaan. I am a midwife and I'm a professor at UNLV. I am in support of SB 146 because it will increase access to midwifery care in Nevada. Nationally, midwives attend about 10% of births. In Nevada, they attend only 4% of births. And one of the barriers to this is the ability to admit your patients to the hospital for birth. In Nevada, only about 75% of midwife-attended deliveries occur in the hospital, but nationally, 95% of midwife-attended births occur in the hospital. The workaround that Nevada midwives are using right now is to have their physician colleagues duplicate their work and redo the admission and discharge charting so that a patient can be admitted and discharged from the hospital. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me add before we go to questions, Chair, if I might, that we are going to accept a friendly amendment to this bill. And the amendment is going to, and I'm wondering if your counsel could state what he said to me, because he said it so much more eloquent than I did.
Please proceed.
Eric Robbins, LCB Legal, for the record. I had just suggested that the amendment be phrased in a manner roughly like saying that the provisions of the section about the that requires insurers to impanel physicians who are on the faculty of medical schools not be construed to prohibit an insurer from removing one of those physicians from those panels for misconduct.
Thank you so much. And with that, we stand ready to take questions.
Thank you much. Thank you so much, Senator Lang. Any committee members with questions? Senator Stone.
Well, thank you for bringing this forward, and we're always trying to find ways to deliver services with our professional shortages. This is kind of a new concept for me with the nurse midwives. So it's my understanding these are registered nurses. And can you just maybe talk about, maybe in Las Vegas, about what their postgraduate training is that allows them to specialize to do this line of medicine?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So a nurse midwife is a registered nurse who returns to school for a master's level training in midwifery.
Okay, so that's a master's level and just basically delivering of a child? Or
Yes, the scope of practice for midwives is basic well woman care, so your annual visit, care for pregnancy, delivery, and postpartum, and care of the newborn up to 28 days.
And they can work as independent practitioners?
Yes, the state of Nevada licenses nurse midwives as advanced practice nurses, and we fall under their laws.
And I would assume in their training that there wouldn't be any problem with any type of physical assessment capabilities or doing physical examinations commensurate with a osteopathic physician or an allopathic physician?
The training, the physical assessment training for midwives is identical to the training for all nurse practitioners.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your answers.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? We don't have any more. So we'll go ahead and move to testimony. So thank you so much, Senator Lang, and of course to our deans for presenting. So we'll go ahead and move on to testimony in support. So just as a reminder, please limit your testimony to 2 minutes each, and speakers are urged to avoid repetition of comments. We'll start with testimony in support from those in the physical locations, and then we'll move on to those who have called in or in Las Vegas. So is there anyone in Carson City who would like to provide testimony at this time? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you. My name is John Phoenix. I preferred Rob. I don't have a preference for pronouns, and I'm a nurse practitioner in Las Vegas. And I'm basically here to share with you my experiences as a person trying to get credentialed with an insurance plan. So my practice is very specific. It's family practice. It's within the LGBT community, and 80+% of my patients identify as gay, lesbian, trans. I provide gender-affirming care. I provide HIV care for treatment. I provide HIV prevention care as well as family care. I sent a letter every 6 months to Culinary Health Insurance for 5 years to get credentialed. Patients paid to see me out of network for cash because I provided the service that they needed. And every 6 months when I got my rejection letter for 5 years, it was the same thing. We're already full. We don't need more panelists. That's why we are number 49 for medical care in the United States. That's why, as Senator Lang stated, we need 8,000 nurses. We need 800 nurse practitioners. We need over 300 physicians. But yet we get this constant pushback of, we're already full. You are full of something. It's not providers. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cameron Duncan, and I am the Vice President for the Nevada Advanced Practice Nurses Association, and I'm the interim dean for the Orvis School of Nursing at the University of Nevada, Reno. And I want to testify in support of this bill. This bill requires nurse midwives, or allows nurse midwives to do an exam that they already are trained, educated, and it is within their scope of practice to do. So we're in full support of that change. But I also want to comment in support of Section 4. In the digest, the first part of that mentions that the provider of healthcare, which uses very professional, neutral language, clinician neutral is the better term, whereas Section 2 of that talks about employment from a school of medicine or school of osteopathic medicine, and I would encourage the committee to include language for employment for a school of nursing within the state. Nurse practitioners or APRNs, nurse midwives even, have a minimum number of hours that they have to work within a 5-year period to maintain their licensure. And so many of my faculty members work 1 day a week in a private agency, so they too will need to be credentialed with these payers. And just like the previous testimony mentioned, I myself, I own and operate an independent practice here in Reno, and I've had trouble with multiple insurance companies with credentialing saying that the panel is full, yet I meet all of these criteria here. So it's really important that APRNs and schools of nursing also be included in that provider neutral language. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone in support?
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Maya Holmes, and I'm the Health Policy Director with the Culinary Health Fund. We're a nonprofit labor management trust, and we provide the health benefits for the members of the Culinary Workers Union and their dependents, and we cover approximately 130,000 lives. Where our primary focus is to ensure that we have quality healthcare access, quality healthcare and affordability for our participants, but also within our entire healthcare market in the state. Physician access is critical, and it impacts health plans and participants throughout our state. We really strive to ensure that we have high-quality networks and deliver high-value care. We support the overall intent of the bill and efforts to increase physician training opportunities. We spoke with Senator Lang regarding a friendly amendment to ensure medical school physicians must continuously meet plan credentialing requirements. And we really appreciate her support and willingness to work with us on a friendly amendment. We do want to work on the language because we're not sure if the misconduct is exactly what we were hoping for in the language. We really just want to ensure that once a physician is credentialed, if there are issues down the road, we have the ability to address that and that they continuously meet our credentialing requirements. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? We'll go to support testimony in not Carson City, Las Vegas, and virtually.
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and move on to opposition. Is there anyone in Carson City that would like to testify in opposition?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Helen Foley, and I don't like being up here in opposition, but there was one section of the bill that we disagreed a bit on, and so I felt that it was proper that we do so. The vast majority of the bill we didn't have a problem with. I represent the Nevada Association of Health Plans, which is a 10-member organization of commercial health insurance and government programs in Nevada. We really appreciate the work of the senator and what she's attempting to do. I met with her yesterday. We talked about Section 4, which dealt with the health plans and that any doctor would be able to join that network. We have some issues that we're still trying to work through. I'm very interested in what Culinary has had to say and would like to work with Senator Lang to see how we might be able to resolve this issue. You know, the whole notion of any willing provider, it gives healthcare providers a right that is not given to anyone else in any other section of service in Nevada. Schools are not mandated to hire any willing teacher. Airlines are not mandated to hire any willing pilot. Physician group practices are not mandated to hire a physician simply because he or she wants to be part of that. And even hospitals are not mandated to provide opportunities and privileges for physicians, nurses, or other providers just because that provider wants to. So there's a delicate balance here. We want to make sure that the rights of employment and contract are met, and we look forward to working with Senator Lang on trying to resolve some of these issues. And I have to say that all of the members of our organization are extremely pleased about the new School of Medicine in Las Vegas and the great work that is happening in northern Nevada with Renown. And so we do not want to do anything that harms them in any way. We want to get the very best teachers here to teach in our cardiology divisions and everything else. So we'll try to work this out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else in opposition to Senate Bill 146? We don't have any. Let's go to Las Vegas and virtual.
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. And then is there anyone in this room that would like to testify in neutral on Senate Bill 146?
Good afternoon. For the record, Valerie Haskin, Rural Regional Behavioral Health Coordinator. So today I'd like to comment briefly on the current definition of healthcare provider in NRS 687B, which affects the provider types that may benefit from this bill. So in Section 4 of this bill, it goes into the provider types, but I want to point out that NRS 687B points to the definition given in NRS 695G.070. Which is very broad, which can be a good thing. The definition there is a physician or other healthcare practitioner who is licensed or otherwise authorized in the state to furnish any healthcare service and an institution providing healthcare services or other setting in which healthcare services are provided, including without limitation a hospital, surgical center for ambulatory patients, facility for skilled nursing, residential facility for groups, laboratory, and any other such licensed facility. So for contrast, in NRS 629.031, provider of healthcare is very clearly defined, including all behavioral health provider types. Over the last several months, I've been hearing from behavioral health providers and other stakeholders in the communities I serve in rural Nevada that they have submitted applications to join insurance networks and have also been rejected on the basis of the network being full, while these providers are looking to expand their services in known mental health provider shortage areas, which are also physical health provider type shortage areas. So while there is clearly value in keeping the statute broad, my concern is that insurance networks may use their own definition of provider of healthcare to ignore provider types outside of traditional physical medicine that are also of critical need across the state. I respectfully encourage this committee to consider adding or altering language in this bill or in NRS 687B to ensure that all eligible providers in good standing are able to join these insurance networks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to testify in neutral on this bill? We don't have anyone here. Anyone in Las Vegas or virtually?
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Senator Lang, did you have closing remarks?
Senator Lang for the record. So I just want to clear up a couple things. This is not an any willing provider law. This is a law that's only going to affect the medical schools in Nevada, both public and private, when they're trying to get teachers, clinicians to come and teach in their medical schools. And so that's why, if the bill seems narrow, that's why it's narrow. It's only meant to affect that population, which also includes therapists, which they are also doctors. So in closing, I just want to reiterate that we are in a shortage here in Nevada. We're looking for ways to increase the pipeline by getting the doctors that we need in the school, and give those teachers an opportunity to apply, go through the same application process that everyone else has to go to get on the panel. It just ensures that if there are no issues, they will get on the panel. So with that, I hope that we can get your support on this bill, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Senator Lang. At this time, I will go ahead and close the hearing on Senate Bill 146. We have reached the last agenda item of today's meeting. We'll go ahead and move on to public comments. So we'll start with anyone in the physical locations. Just a reminder, please limit your comment to 2 minutes each. We don't have anyone here in Carson City. BPS, is there anyone in Las Vegas or virtual for public comment?
Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments? We don't have any. We are going to have a meeting on Tuesday, and so we look forward to seeing everyone out. Thank you so much. Meeting adjourned.